Hello, my name is Pablo Requena, and in this video we're going to see how to fit the pack on a classical guitar. This is actually the second part. In the first part we saw all the initial stages of it, and now I've got the guitar ready to receive the pack. So what I did in between videos was to prepare the mortises in the linings to be able to receive the back bars. And I've also fitted in these brackets and these reinforcement strips. So the harmonic parts, instead of putting one peon on top, which it's absolutely fine to do if you wanted to do that, I prefer to make a bracket which is slightly bigger, and it's going to give a little bit more sort of reinforcement into that bar. And then we have the upper harmonic bar, and I like making this bracket all the way up to be resting against the lining. That way, when I have the back on and the back bar in here, it's actually making a bit like a frame, and it's really reinforcing this bar. And I like doing that because along my career I've seen many guitars that needed work, and the problem was that sometimes, because of the pressure that the fingerboard is inflicting into this area of the bar, sometimes this bar could separate from the soundboard and you end up having a gap underneath here, and it's really due to the pressure that this bar is sort of receiving from the fingerboard. So having this long bracket, it's going to support this bar really well, and that's never going to happen. Basically, I mean about having a gap here. The other thing that I like doing is to have a reinforcing strip here. Basically this one is made of silk. It's just a very thin silk strip, and it's been glued in place with animal glue. And sometimes people put another bar similar to this one but over there, and that's also okay, but I prefer to do the strip because I obtain the kind of reinforcement that I want to get without adding any mass or adding any weight into the guitar. But nevertheless, what will happen is that the lower bout, which is very prone to cracks, so if there is an accident or somebody knocks your guitar by accident in these areas of the sides, it's very easy to have a crack that travels all the way up along the sides. And if there's nothing to interrupt that crack, it will crack open. And I've had that many times. I've seen that in repairs that come to my workshop. So this is a really good way to reinforcing the sides without adding on unnecessary weight into the instrument. So now we're going to see the back itself. What I've done before starting this video was to trim the length of the top bar here. And actually really all I did was to take a measurement from the center line to the edge here, which it's very simple. All you need to do is to put a straight edge along the center line and then take a measurement. Whoops. Just take a measurement from the inside of the side to this edge. In this case I've got 139 millimeters. And then what I did was, because I measured this side and came to this side, and then I measured from the center up here 139, and then I took a dimension, like imagine here this one was sticking out, so I took a dimension of how much that was, mark it up here and then cut it. And that is the same with this one. So what that does is that now I know that this bar actually fits into here. And it doesn't quite fit, it's just a little long. So I just want to check that I am in the center here, and yes I am. And I'm going to check down here as well. Oops, that's come off. So let's get that back in place. This one over here. you'll find that fitting the back is actually a little fiddly, but if you take your time. Okay, it's very slightly off the center there, but I'm really not too concerned about that, because along here we're going to be cutting later on a big inlay which it will hide or it will remove that joint. So I'm a little bit off there, but I'm not too worried about that. I'm more interested in being here and in the center and also lining up with my mortises. So to be able to get this in, I'm going to have to trim this edge very slightly. So I'm just going to get a chisel and just checking that I got the right side, and I'm just going to take a very thin slice here. That's it. And then I'm just going to scrape off a little bit of glue that is still stuck in there, and I'm going to also scrape this side off as well. Okay, so now we're going to try again. I'm going to put that one there and this one here. Now it goes in very easily and very nicely, and that it's exactly in the middle, and this, yeah, very slightly off, but really next to nothing, so it's not enough to really be an issue. So the next thing to do to fit the back is that this center strip, which is red reinforcement for the center inlay, is too long up here and is therefore in the way of the slipper. So I like fitting a long strip to start with, because not only is it's going to reinforce the guitar or the back quite well while I'm doing all the work of fitting the back bars and all of that, but also it's helping me to position my template. So if I bring the template back in here, remember this template that I was saying that I used to be able to glue the back bars in place? Well, this center strip, which is the reinforcement for the center inlay, fits perfectly in this gap from this point to that point, and what that does is to help me to locate the position of the template. So it's done the job, but now I need to work out how much of this I'm going to remove. So all I need to do is to put it back in place, and with the top bar in, I'm going to make one line up here. So now I have a line up here which corresponds with this outer edge of the back, and I'm going to take a measurement and I'm going to measure up from the edge of the slipper to the mark that I have done, and I have 79 millimeters. Well, then now I come over here, and from this edge down I'm going to mark 79 millimeters. So I've got this, and that will come there. Now I could cut it along here and have a very snug fit between the slipper and the center strip, but I don't like doing that, because if I get a very snug fit, also I've seen so many guitars that when you look through the sound hole you can see that actually the bar was so snug that when they fitted the back, actually it went underneath the slipper, and therefore what happened then is that the back doesn't have proper contact into this area of the heel, and that's really important to keep the stability that you need for the neck in relation to the body. So to make sure that the center strip is not going to go stuck underneath here, I'm just going to cut it a little shorter. So if I use my ruler, I can make a line here, and that's really about 2 millimeters or 2.5. So that's the gap that I'm going to have from the slipper into the center bar, and I'm actually going to use the ruler to guide the saw so that I can cut it nicely parallel to the bar. So now that I'm not going to cut all the way down because I don't want to scratch the back, but what I'm going to do is that I'm going to get this dish into here, and because I got very coarse sandpaper there, I'm just going to put a mat into here, and now I'm going to be able to work there. So I think I'm going to use this chisel, 19mm. So good pressure in your thumb to make sure that it's going down, and also to make sure that it's not going to go and crash into your back bar and damage anything. And you can wiggle it sideways. Sometimes students, they go and move it this way, but that it's always going to give you problems. So if you have good pressure in your thumb, you'll see that you can actually control the chisel quite well. Now there is cutting too much, and I just know if I put too much force, I'm just going to have problems. So I'm just going to cut it off and start again. Again, the same problem there. So I'm going to cut it off and break it. And I'm going to bring this now over here. So the bar is gone, but I still have quite a bit of wood in there. So if I carry on with the chisel in that way, I'm going to end up scratching my back. So what I can do is to use the chisel as a scraper. And you can see that it's actually, now everything is nearly gone. Okay, so now I got a good surface here for the glue to stick to when it comes to glue the guitar, to glue the back onto the guitar, I mean. So I'm going to bring it back in here, back in there, and now I know that this area is going to go down well. I can also lift it and just check, but obviously if you don't do calculations right, yeah, I can see it's fine. Right, so I'm going to get this out of the way. So now I have the center bar and the lower bar that they are too long, so obviously we need to cut them to length as well so that it fits in. So that's what I'm going to do next. So what I would like to do is to get a pencil this one. Well, I just get a normal pencil, and basically I'm just going to mark one line under here. No, this pencil is just too long, so I'm just going to cut it down and mark it like that. So now with this pencil I'm able to mark that bar, and I'm also going to mark this bar, and then I go around to the other side and do exactly the same thing. Okay. I think I'm going to put this mat back in here. But the problem is that I cannot just go and cut it here. Basically, I know that I've marked the outside of the sides, which is what that line represents, and I need the bar to fit inside. So I need to take off with an offcut of the sides that I've got here. I can put it in there, and then I can mark my cutting line. So that way I don't have to be measuring and doing calculations that don't always work out right. Okay, so let's cut it. With the saw. Actually, if I do it here, I could cut over there, so I'm going to do it from here. So when I'm cutting these bars, I like going all the way down to the point that I know that I'm actually scratching the back. I don't mind scratching the back because it's in the area that is going to be cut off later when I fit in the bindings. But cutting all the way, then I know that if I press in this part of the bar and I knock it, then I know that that will break quite easily and will come off without any problems. But I still have a little bit of cedar still stuck in there, so for that I'm going to use the chisel to clean it up completely. Okay. So now they don't go in. Well, that one does, but this one doesn't. That one doesn't go in, and that one does go in. So now we need to find out why is that, what's interfering. So on this side, I don't know if I'm able to show that in the camera, but what I can see is that the mortise that I cut in the lining is just a little tight, but also is still a little long. So the first thing I'm going to do is to cut a little bit off the bar, just in case the mortise is really not so tight and I can fit it in. So I'm just going to cut a little bit here, like that. And then also, let me show you here on the lining, this corner in there is very difficult to clean properly, so there's always a little bit of wood left inside that corner there. So what I will do is that in the bar I'm quite happy to cut off this corner like that, because that way I know that most of the bar is going to be well supported, but that corner, which it could be in the way with the wood that is left in there, so that way I know it will fit a little bit easier. So now I know it's the right length, but I still can see that I could just push it down, but what I will do is to muck about with this mortise. So actually I just need to widen up that mortise a little bit, so that's what I'm going to do. Perhaps if you come in that side, because what I need to do is to just cut a little bit off this side, like that. And then with this little chisel, clean up the rest. So now I'm going to try again. And you can see that that is a little tight, but it will go in very well, and that one goes in as well. So we need to have a look at the other side now. And over here I have a similar scenario. I don't know if it's possible to see, but I can see that the mortise is sort of wide enough in that side, but in this side it's not wide enough, it's catching with the bar, but the length itself is good. So what I need to do is to widen the slot here, but because this part of the slot is not the easiest to work with, what I'm actually going to do is that in my bar, which is this one here, all I'm going to do, and again if you come in this side it will show better, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to remove a very very slight amount of wood from there in an angle like that. So can you see I'm just misshaping the bar very slightly so that it's actually a little thinner in the end, and then I'm also going to remove that corner like I did in the other one. So now everything should fit much more easily. And there you are, that's it. And then that one fits in no problem, and that one fits in no problem. Okay, so I'm in. However, I'm not quite ready yet to start gluing. And the reason is that I want to check that bar there, which is fine. But the reason why I'm not ready to glue is because actually, if I look along this edge, I can see that the back will go all the way down here, but with this bar, it doesn't go all the way down. There's a bit of a gap there. And then that one goes all the way down as well. So it's only this one in the middle that I need to adjust. So that's what I'm going to do now. So I like the shape and I like the depth that I have here, but if I go into the back, I can see that the slope goes down too rapidly into here, and this is not really flat enough there, so it sort of climbs up too quickly. So this is actually a little bit too high for the mortise. So all I need to do is, without going over the top, but just a little bit at a time, I can flatten the end part of the bar and just remove a little bit of wood at a time until it goes down enough. So let's have a look and see what it does now. So there you are. Now that, well, actually it's still a little high, so, and a little tight. So I'm going to have to find a way to loosen this up a bit. I think I'm going to lose a little bit of the thickness here as well. So back into here. This one I'm also going to cut the hem off. That's it. That's it, all the way down, and then this is also all the way down. So I'm going to check the other side. And I can see this is not deep enough, or it's not going down enough. I have about 1 millimeter gap there. Here I also have a gap, but it's only a little bit. It's not even half a millimeter. And this goes down not quite enough either. I can rock the bar as well. So again, I'm going to have a look and work out how much I need to take. So here I can see the depth is right there. So I'm going to remove a little bit of the height here. So let me just see again. Yes, it's about half a millimeter. I can also see that I have an angle like that and I want an angle like this. So I'm just going to cut that off as well. Again, not deep enough, so a bit more to take. On this one. So I'll try again. And still a bit more. that's it. Now this one and that one, they both need a little touch, so I'm just going to go a little bit here. And a little bit here. So that goes down, and that goes down. And then I'm going to check there. Yeah. Because it's also quite important that this part of this bar doesn't catch with here, but it's fine. So this is now ready to go. I've got the back completely ready. The only thing that's left to do here is to fit my label, because it'll be a lot easier to do it now when the back is still out than do it later and trying to fit it through the sound hole. And but yes, all that's left to do is to glue it in. Just check that everything is ready and as it's supposed to be. Usually there's a block here holding everything down, so if you have your block still here, make sure you take it out. And I'm not going to glue it in front of the camera now. I'm just going to explain what I do, because I don't want to be rushing this job, but it's very simple. All you need to do is to put a bit of glue all the way along, a tiny drop in each one of those mortises, and then a little bit of glue in the slipper and in here. And usually what I do is, to avoid having lots of glue sort of squeezing out from this area, I just wipe off the glue that's in the edge, so that there's less glue for it to squeeze out. And then put it back in, and to be able to hold the back in place, I'm sure that you already got a method. There's many ways of doing this. You can use a string and wrap everything around, that way that it will put pressure down. All I do is to use tape, and I just tape this down into this area here, and that's enough. That's all you need to hold the guitar down, to hold the back down into the guitar, and make sure that you got tape everywhere. Don't be tempted to put a clamp into here, because what will happen, you could put one of these clamps into here like that, and if you want, you can just put it only in the edge, but make sure that it doesn't go in too much, because what that will do is that the slipper inside will give, and when it's glued, you'll end up having a big depression in there and you'll never get rid of it. So it's worth to leave that alone, or just put one clamp right on the edge and then another clamp right on the edge here, where you know that the block is. Otherwise, just the tape or the string will be enough to hold it in place. So that's it. That's all there is to fit the pack. You can see there is a lot of little details that you need to pay attention to, and in the end, if you've done everything right, you have the guitar ready to come out of the mold. A really exciting time. So before we go, let me remind you about the guitar making courses that I offer. If you would like to build an instrument like this to a professional standard, please contact me and have a look at my website, which is www.guitarmakingcourse.org, and have a look and see if there is something there that you find interesting. Thank you very much for watching.